There we go. So, I am doing a live stream as a way to break up an enormous drive so it's not quite as taxing. And I have stopped at one of my favorite restaurants in one of my favorite cities in the world. I have God's chosen sandwich. It's a muffaletta. And yes, I got the big one. It's literally like, let me show you. I can't show you the whole thing without it falling apart unless I keep it wrapped, but this is a whole muffaletta sandwich right there. And you best believe I will be eating a lot of it. Alright, we got people showing up. Hello, 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 hello. I will tell you guys, I was weary of doing, yes, this is a rag t-shirt. This is a t-shirt that is now basically just a rag I have with me everywhere. It's always nice to have people you can talk to in real time. I wish I could get the camera a little bit lower, but it's going to fall if I do that. So you'll just be looking like right here, like the Dwight Schrute sales tactic. So, yeah, it's always nice to have a live stream, interact with people in real time. I miss people a lot. I've been thinking about that quite a bit. By the way, let me know, guys, if the air conditioning affects the microphone. I'm trying to keep it on because it's so hot. I wanted to roll the window down and turn the car off, but the restaurant workers are on break right out there, and they're both smoking, which, I mean, if they want to do that, they can do that, but I don't want to, breathe it in, so I'm going to try to keep the windows up and the air on for a bit. But anyway, I was thinking the other day about how you get lonely doing this, which seems weird because you get so much more attention than you've ever had before when you get, successful on any kind of social media. But it's not really real. I spend the vast majority of my time alone, and I was thinking about how much I miss interacting with people. So the live streams have been a nice way to combat that. All right, let me read some of these questions or comments. I got lots of hellos and what up, bros. Hello, everyone. You tried alligator gar fishing today at Palacios, didn't catch anything. I've only been to Palacios a few times in the past. We used to have friends that lived in Palacios when I was younger, like a teenager, like 14, 15. So I've never fished in that area because I didn't fish back then. I fished a little bit as a child, as most kids do in the South at some point, and then went most of my life not really caring that much about it, and then I got back into it in my 20s. So yeah, Palacios. I've been there a few times, never fished it. What's up? Good to see you. Hello, my friend. Right back at you guys. Oh, this Bites and Strikes. What's up, man? Did you see the new record Burmese python caught a few days ago in Florida? I did not. I would have to go back and look at that. How big was it? I mean, I know they routinely catch them out. Routinely. They don't catch that many. But when they do, it's not uncommon to see very large ones, 15, 16 feet in length, which is a massive snake. That snake is, that would be this big around. So I would like to know what that record was. 19 feet. Oof. Good Lord. Yeah, damn, that's amazing. It's more than big enough to easily kill a person. If you were to tangle with something like that on your own, you could end up getting killed by it very easily. Which actually almost happened to me. Not with a Burmese python, but with something else that I filmed yesterday. Brazos River gar fishing, like, is that a question? Yes, it's good. I mean, the Brazos has been kind of weird recently, flooding up and down. I can't wait for it to go down again. 100 degrees and we got you here trying. Yeah, I mean, it's probably about the same here. I'm in New Orleans right now, guys. If you don't know where I am next to my favorite sandwich shop in New Orleans, because that's just the highlight of me doing these road trips back and forth to Florida, is I stop here in New Orleans, which is my favorite city in the world, and I will get muffaletta, which is one of my favorite things to eat. So yeah, I think it's about the same temperature here. How's the fishing been in Florida? Interesting. I'll put it like that. I went there specifically to film one video, and I needed to catch a type of, I don't want to give too much away because then you'll guess what the video is going to be, and it's a project I've been working on for a long time, but I needed to catch a specific type of a family of fish. And I needed, any of the common variety that you might see would have worked, except for one, and that's what I caught for the experiment I'm trying to do. However, the one I caught, the fish I caught yesterday was huge. It was huge. It was about 9 feet long and weighed a couple of 100 pounds. Absolutely massive animal. It's going to make a really good video. And for reasons that you'll see in the video, I almost had a horrific accident catching it. Really scary for a moment. But I don't want to oversell it because we're going to publish that video probably in 2-3 weeks. We'll see. 106 heat index. Ugh, it's disgusting. The video showed the python striking at a person from like 4 feet away, and he dodged it and quickly got its head. Yeah, I mean, if you're catching a 19-foot snake, either you're an idiot or you are good at it, so you know what you're doing. And when you get good at dealing with snakes, you can tell when they're getting ready to move. Their musculature tenses and it maneuvers in such a way that you know they're going to strike. Also, it's very much like a punch. Basically, if my arm is already straight, I can't really punch you. You have to get it set to a point where you can punch from. And just like you have a telegraph in fighting where you see guys like, oh, they're getting ready, snakes will do the same thing. A lot of animals do. So good on him for not getting bit by a 19-foot python. That would have sucked. You know, a 19-foot python would have teeth about that long. Love to see you land something big. I'm assuming that says big. Something big like a gar on a fly rod. You know, I've been wanting to. I found a guy who's kind of making a name for himself in the gar scene by fly fishing alligator gar in the Trinity, like big ones, which is pretty impressive. Really cool. I might try to get a trip with him in the near future. I'm good. Keep it up. I appreciate it. What's up, Peyton? Hello, hellos. Stay safe from the heat. I'm doing my best. What have I been fishing for lately? I was shark fishing for the last couple of days. And what else have I been doing? It's been rough. I went bass fishing the other day to try to film with a certain type of lure and couldn't catch anything. And it was just so unbelievably hot. I tried to go gar fishing, but the spot I had picked out was flooded and just wasn't able to access the bank the way I needed to film. So it's been rough. It's been tough out there. Muffaletta sandwich. If you've never had one, a muffaletta sandwich is basically, I don't know the type of bread they cook it on. I don't know. Somebody looked that up, but it's delicious. Lots of olive oil, lots of olives, lots of chopped peppers. I don't know what kind of cheese it is, and then like meats like ham and pastrami or something like that. Really delicious. It's the chopped olives and peppers and the oil, the olive oil, that really make it what it is. Do conditions matter for gar? If so, what conditions are good? Yeah, I mean, time of day is important, despite what people thought for a long time. A lot of the information that people got about how to catch alligator gar, like, oh, they bite in the hottest part of the day. No, they don't. Or at the very least, the bite ratio goes down. They're not very different from other fish in the sense that you want to fish for them early or late. That's when they're going to be the most active. I mean, it's just common sense. That's when the bait is active. That's when they're going to be active. I think early on, fishermen kind of exploring gar fishing were probably surprised that the bite would last into the hottest part of the day. So the idea became like, oh, that's when you catch them. It's like, no, that's when you can catch them. It's not really the best time to catch them. For me, when the water is flooded, that works really well. If it floods up into the banks in the springtime, because that's when they're breeding and that's where they're going to be. However, I would caution against that, even though it is easy to catch them that way. It's probably wise to leave them alone because they're attempting to breed when they do that. And you don't want to disturb them. That's when you'll see multiple gar kind of following each other. That's what's going on. So aside from that, what you want, I like it when the water is as low as possible. A big water source that's as low as possible, because if you know the features they're going to be in, and the water's down real low, it's much easier to find them. You're not having to explore with your bait. You know exactly, okay, here's the river is really small today, and there's this deep pocket that's right here. I know that's where they're going to be. So look for low waters, mornings and evenings, and then, just make sure you have a choice of bait that they're going to like, something oily, mullet, tilapia, carp. there's not a whole lot to it besides being able to read the river. Right time of day and reading the river are more important than other tactics like how to work the bait or anything like that. Eat some gator tail while you're here. I would, but I've already stopped, and I have a sandwich that's much bigger than my head. I do like alligator. I mean, I don't eat it very much. Like, it's very rare occasions I'll be somewhere where I decide I'm gonna have some. It's one of those animals that, like, I just personally love them so much, I would not kill one. I mean, they're well populated now, but I personally just like them too much. Would I like more catfishing or gar fishing? Gar fishing. I do not enjoy catfishing. Catfish are not fun to catch for me. Blues they just flail around on the surface. They give up real fast. 99 times out of 100, you're going to have to go through 100 small ones before you get a big one. They're so common that it's, from a business perspective, it's hard to sell anything less than a gigantic one to an audience. Also, I'm better at gar fishing, so kind of going back to the point of selling your catch to the audience, there are guys out there who will catch bigger catfish than I'm ever going to get on a routine basis. So if I'm trying to make a video about catfish, it's hard to compete with those videos. Whereas on the flip side, out of everyone on YouTube, I'm like one of the top 3 or 4 guys that can routinely catch alligator gar into the hundreds of pounds. I am on the upper end of that genre and the lower end of the other. So not only do I enjoy alligator gar more, not only do I like them more as a species, but my channel will do better if I focus on them too. Lots of people use this information to catch and kill them. Is the ratio of meat to fish weight worth it? What information and who is them? I don't know what you're talking about. Does it matter what type of bait you use for gar fishing? I mean, pick a species that they're going to be eating, Yeah, flatheads are fun. They're a pain to catch for me because if you don't have a boat and you're fishing for flatheads, what that means is you're going to be carrying your live bait wherever you go. And I do a lot of hiking to get to my spots, and carrying live bait over a great distance is really not fun at all. So fishing for flatheads are really fun to catch. They put up a much better fight. But carrying that bait around with you is not fun at all, especially when you have all this other camera equipment and stuff you're trying to lug around. Do you ever find someone to take you offshore fishing? I know you made a community post about needing a charter a little while ago. Yes and no. I had multiple people reach out to me and say that they would love to help me, and then when I tried to set up a date, they ghosted me and have not spoken to me since, and that has happened with multiple people. So yeah, I know a guide who's a family friend who would he's offered to knock the price of the trip down, because I'm trying to do more than one thing on that. So it's kind of difficult to explain without giving it away, but basically I'm trying to do 3 different things at once. So I've got a friend who's a guide who's offering me one of his normal charters, but to do much more than what you would normally get out of the money that you're paying. So it's a significant deal. I would absolutely do that, except that I want to finish this video before the date that he has, the first date he has available. So no, I have not functionally found anyone to help me with that on the time scale that I need. Please read my sister's name, because today is my sister's birthday, and my sister's name, the last time somebody did this to me, because I don't speak Spanish, and somebody was like, do you speak Spanish? I was like, no. And they said, oh, can you shout out my friend? My friend's name is this. And it turns out I was saying something like really offensive in Spanish. I didn't know it. To your sister, happy birthday. I hope your birthday is amazing. My sister chiming in, hello. Do you ever like people that do you ever like people that kill gar? Some people don't like them because they Okay, I think what you're saying is, like, what's my opinion of people who kill alligator gar? Some people do it because they, quote unquote, steal your bait. Um, no, I don't particularly like people that kill an animal that is officially classified as a threatened species that my entire profession exists around protecting. No, people who kill them I do not like very much, typically speaking. There's never really a good excuse for it. Like, there's not a good excuse for doing it. So no. The answer to the first half of the question is no. But as far as like people don't like them because they steal your bait, big deal. Everything steals everything's bait. Like, you're putting food in the water, different things are going to pick it up. Just because it's not the one you were imagining in your perfect fishing scenario does not mean that you need to kill that animal. Like, what a childish way to think. Not you, but like people who think that way. Unbelievably juvenile mindset to have. Okay, hang on. I'm reading the back half of comment. Well, there we go. I was gonna say I saw the back half of a comment, and I was like, well, what is the first half? Would I ever do a collab with Blacktip H if given the opportunity? I need to do a little bit of research. There was some issues that came up. I saw other people discussing, and I do not have information on this, so I'm not condemning or justifying. I just know some information came up regarding Blacktip H and some like fish handling practices that were, according to the people that I was hearing talk about it, like unacceptable for the species he was handling. And then there was a lot of, instead of responding to the situation, by saying like, hey, we made a mistake here. Maybe we shouldn't handle the fish this way. It's so hot out here. I turned the air down so that you can hear me. The air is not making that like horrible like rushing noise over the mic, but it killed my phone. So I'm gonna have to play this one by ear. I don't know what we're gonna do. On the one hand, I want to try to keep this going, keep the phone cool, but on the other hand, I don't want you to hear nothing but the roar of air over the microphone. Okay, people coming back now. See who my real friends are. See who abandoned me right off the bat. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the live stream got killed for a second because the phone overheated. I had to like hold it up to the air vent like real close to get it back. Okay, let me see what I missed while I was probably like a freeze frame, just like a buffering circle. Hi there from the UK. I'll watch. Oh, yeah, Graham from the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. That was the inspiration for this YouTube channel, largely, is specifically Graham on the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. That's, if you look at the early videos I used to make, that was primarily like the style that I shot them in until I started doing things a little bit differently. Can we get some more bowfin fishing? Maybe. I've wanted to. I know good spots for bowfin, like reliable spots for bowfin, but I don't like filming in them. They're a pain to film in. So maybe if I can find some new spots that I like more, yeah. Because they're fun to catch. Yeah, talking about pulling tarpon out of the water. Going back to the conversation about Blacktip H. Yeah, I think that was part of it. What are my thoughts on keeping alligator gar as pets? It depends on the, this is true with a lot of different animals. As far as like keeping things as pets. There are some animals that I have big issues with in terms of being kept as pets regardless. Animals with like really high emotional intelligence, like people who keep birds, for example. Very few instances where I feel like people do an adequate job of caring for a bird. Most people don't understand just how intelligent they are and how emotionally intelligent they are. Dogs, on the other hand, like dogs are just as emotionally intelligent as birds. However, dogs evolved alongside humans to need a type of care that more humans naturally are attuned to understanding. Whereas birds are, unless you know what you're talking about, unless you know your stuff, can be kind of a mystery. So a lot of people do it wrong. But fish not really the case in that respect. So if you have adequate space, that's the big thing for a large growing animal. Adequate space, you can feed adequate food. You know your aquarium chemistry, your pH levels are correct. The water is filtered correctly. I don't really have a problem with that. It depends on how you get it too. I mean, like, now that we're getting into the territory of alligator gar getting proper, I mean, we're dipping our toes in the water. Alligator gar is getting proper protection. They were classified as threatened, but what has been done since? Really, we are just kind of creaking the door open. We've wanted it forever. People who are in the conservation community have long been saying that it's overdue. The Texas government specifically is just now being like, okay, let's start thinking about it. Like we should have been doing 100 years ago. But so I don't know if the regulations and guidelines around that fish will ever change. But as long as you are caring for it well, and it's probably a young one, I don't really have an issue with that. Taking breeding populations out of the wild for an animal that is struggling to recover its population numbers, not a good idea though. So I don't know. I have to think about that on the whole. Oh god, is the stream buffering again? Or is that an old comment? Oh, it's an old comment. Thank god. The last thing we heard... Oh yeah, we were talking about... I'm catching up in y'all's comments from when the thing was buffering, so apologize for repeating anything. Hi from the UK. Yep, already read that. I'm a fisher? Question mark. Yeah, I mean, I have a background in conservation education. Worked for the Houston Zoo for a very long time, so I have a professional background in conservation. My interest in conservation education shifted. It was always in media. That didn't really become a realistic possibility for me until social media rose to prominence the way it did. I'm older than a lot of you might think I am. I'm in my mid-30s, so like I remember before social media was a thing. I've wanted to be in this line of work before there was the opportunity to do it on the internet. So as that rose to prominence and that became a possibility, that's where I took my attention. And one of the things that stood out to me that I thought deserved more attention was freshwater ecosystems, because they're not very well represented in zoos. I'm just giving you my train of thought and how I got here. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to talk about this quite a bit. And I realized that you can't really film underwater in a freshwater environment in the southern United States because it's so murky. So how do you get the animals on camera? You have to catch them. So yes, I'm a fisherman by necessity. I missed the big yellow boat Graham had. Oh, did he get rid of it? What did he call it? There was a name for it. I can't remember what he called it. He had a name for the boat. I didn't know he got rid of it. That's sad. Do I remember the first gar I ever caught? No, I used to catch them as a kid. So, I mean, if going way back when I was like maybe 11 or 12, we moved out into the middle of Nowheresville, and Oyster Creek runs right through the backyard of that house. Like, you could throw a rock in it from your back porch. So, I used to catch him out of that creek quite a bit. So the first one I ever caught would have been a long time ago, probably 25 years ago, I think. 25 years ago. So no, I remember where I would have been, but I don't remember the exact one. Do I like animals? I have been known to like animals on occasion, yes. Went to the Houston Zoo yesterday and saw the new Galapagos area. It was really nice. Did talk around about the infamous alligator gar, and they said they know of it but haven't seen it. Are you talking about the one that they have at the zoo? So what happened, the large one unfortunately. I say a large one. There was one in the alligator. I mean, there was a large-ish alligator gar in the lion moat for many many years, and they wanted to move it into the new Texas wetland exhibit. Unfortunately, that gar passed away. Ended up being like 4 feet long, give or take. So, not as big as people said. People will always be like, "Oh, it's a giant. It weighs 150 pounds." And I would look at it and be like, "Nah, no, it doesn't." And still, it was a really cool animal. It's sad that it passed away. Yeah, they're hard animals to transport. That's the thing. Some animals transport really well comparatively. Some animals do not, and gar do not. Is Jack going fishing? I don't know. Jack Nicholson, like Jack Nicholas, Jack Donaghy. I'm not sure if it died during transport or not. I only have secondhand information. I just know the plan was to transport it, but the animal passed away. You were referring to me. No, I'm not going fishing. I'm going home. I was fishing. I'm very tired. I've slept a good amount now. What is today? Is today Saturday? Yes, because I was going to do a live stream because I wasn't going to be posting. I could feel my phone getting hot, so I'm going to put you guys in the air. I'm sorry for the noise. I was going to post a video today, but last minute, and this happens a lot, last minute I decided I didn't like the thumbnail. I occasionally have these flashes of like intuition regarding certain things, and one of the things that happens sometimes is I'll be ready to post a video and I'll think about it and just something just clicks and I'm like, no, like don't use that thumbnail, like use this other one that you've just come up with in your brain. And I am almost always right about it. When I ignore that little voice in my head, I end up paying for it with poor performance on my videos. So I decided, I was like, no, don't publish the video. You need to change that thumbnail to the one you're picturing in your head. So I didn't have a video that I wanted to release yet. I have several done, but I don't want to release them quite yet. I have a schedule in my mind. So I want to do a live stream today to release that one next week. So yes, confirming today is Saturday. I think I left Thursday. I always drive in the night on the way out here because it's so much easier. I like to go back during the day so I can stop and get the muffaletta sandwich. But the first 48 hours of the trip, I think I only got 2 hours of sleep. So 46 hours of a combination of driving and hardcore fishing. And I mean, like, I was fishing non-stop. I don't know if you can see it. It's healing up fairly well, but like, it's on the inside of my finger. I can't really find it. But basically, all the skin is rubbed off of my finger there. That's just from casting a fishing rod over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I've got several on my other side of my hands from just non-stop casting. And then I caught a massive fish that weighed several hundred pounds, and that fight lasted a long time, and it was extremely difficult because I was not physically equipped to handle it on my own, and I did. So at one point I just kind of like collapsed, not like involuntarily, like I didn't pass out, but like when I put that fish back in the water, I just like lied down in the sand. Like, I think the camera was still running actually, for a good couple of minutes, just like, I need to relax. So I was gonna go fishing the next day, but I couldn't. I had no sleep. I was sunburned. I was dehydrated. I was exhausted. Also, Florida sand sucks. I got told, unfortunately, I usually park on the side of the road in this area of where I was, because I've seen everyone else do it, so that I did it, and that puts you within about 50, 60 feet of the beach. And then because it's a wildlife sanctuary, one of the park rangers was like, oh, nobody can park on the sides of the road, you have to use a parking lot. And this was after I set up all my stuff and had baits in the water. So I was like, I don't want to ruin everything by taking the baits out of the water, because it took me a long time to get them to the spot I got them to. So I was like, okay, where's the nearest place I can park? And it was like 100 yards away. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're carrying, a lot of gear, bags, cameras, bait, I want to say I was using like 4 different rods at the time. All the stuff, casting it like back and forth, 100 yards through Florida sand becomes a marathon. And I had to keep going back and forth constantly. And I was running back and forth on the beach all day long because there was this giant school of fish that was running back and forth. And I was fishing in that school to catch those fish for bait. And that kept me running back and forth out of the water, back and forth at the beach, non-stop for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And I was just absolutely exhausted by the end of it. So this morning, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm physically too exhausted to do another full day of like hardcore fishing. Like I can't do it. So I decided like I can finish this project. There's a reason I wanted to finish it in Florida. I don't have to. There's a reason I wanted to. I can do it at home, and despite the fact that there's something I wanted out of it from Florida, I'm not going to get that. I'm going to finish this project at home. I'm going to consider the giant fish I caught, even though it didn't fit the project needs, a consolation prize for another video, and I'm going home. Dude, you got like 20 redacted messages. Have I ever fished Spring or Cypress Creek? Yes, both of them. Not really a fan. Just not a lot in there. His yellow boat was called Tilly. I think he had like a more traditional like name for it, like the something something. Wow, so I've been sitting by the water side of the of the line enclosure my last 3 trips to the zoo for like 15-30 minutes with a camera ready and waiting to see if it would surface. That's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't. It was fairly recent, so it might have been there on one of those last trips. I have a standing offer. I have a standing offer to the Houston Zoo. Like, if they want one, like, I can get one. I was gonna say the aquarists at the zoo are, you know, like fond of what I do. They're fans of the show, so it's like standing offer. I know I talked about taking them out of the wild a moment ago, but when you're working with, you know, accredited organizations for the purpose of conservation with threatened species, sometimes it serves the purpose of furthering their conservation to remove certain ones of certain species, and this is a very fine line to walk. I'll give you 1,000 pounds. If is that the sign for pounds, or is that euros? If you say hi, hi. You can find my PayPal. Would love to come to the USA to fish with you, man, and I would love to invite you to come fish for carp on a pole. Like, when you say pole, do you mean like the actual, like, big, long, extended pole fishing style in the UK? That would be a lot of fun. Did the pond of large channel cats and bullhead ever fill back up? The one you fished a while ago with the dead bass on the bank. Oh, you know what? I was going to go out there the other day, and for some reason I didn't make it back out there. I haven't seen it since then. I know the pond you're talking about. Yeah, all the large bass died. There was like a bunch of good 5-6 pounders in there too, and like literally like one like drought, like the water drop so low, killed like every single one of them. I went out there and there was like maybe 10 bass on the bank, like scattered around dead, that were all like good 5-6 pound fish. So it was really sad. So I don't know. I have to check up on that. YouTube suggests to watch live from shorts. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. There's the one that YouTube is pushing on everyone right now. And I say pushing on everyone, I mean the creators. Every single time I try to do a live stream, it's like it puts almost like an ad. Like, you know how like ads pop up when you're watching stuff, like my stuff, like an ad will pop up on the screen. Like, it does that to me, and it's like, go live with other creators. It's like, no. Like, I have a thing I'm doing. Like, I don't need to go live with other creators. Also, I don't even know how that would work. Let's see if I missed anything of interest. You know what I'm missing is I'm missing more of the sandwich. God, look at this. It looks so good. All those peppers in there. Ugh. I wonder where to make it. Isaac Toops. I don't know if you guys know who Isaac Toops is. He's a really great chef of Cajun cuisine, and he has a good tutorial on making muffaletta. I need to watch that again. Oh my God, that is so good. Certain point in the live stream, I always get down to the bottom and there's like no more comments, and I'm just like, I'll sing a song. Ever consider going pleco fishing? Pleco are really, really hard to catch on a line. Also, I see so many of them fishing in Houston that it's almost like, especially when I'm net fishing, it's like you're trying to fish around them. So, probably not. At the moment, what I'm really, really, really interested in are either catching the largest, absolute largest fish possible, or doing interesting videos that nobody has thought about doing before that I'm aware of, you know? So like the weird bait challenges I've been doing, which I mean, granted, you can find videos of people doing some of those before, but like fishing in abandoned places, some of the experiments that I'm working on now, like the reason for this trip was for a video that I've never seen anyone do, that I'm convinced is going to be a huge video when I do it. I've got a couple ideas. I have a notebook full of ideas, and I'm interested in doing the kind of stuff that nobody else is really doing. So not necessarily just the fishing part, but the method or the place by which I show you something is what I'm interested in right now. I know you can't really catch them with a bait. People use trebles to snag, but I don't know how ethical that is. You get into a whole dilemma with that, because snagging is illegal, but then when you catch the fish, like, you have this, like, what do you call it? Catch-22, where it's like, it's an illegal method of catching a fish that is invasive to the point where they should all be removed anyway. So it's like, where do you stand on that? And then granted, people can misuse and abuse anything, like when you legalize it. You could legalize snagging and people will be like, oh, I was trying to snag a pleco and I accidentally snagged all these other fish, you know, things like that. So, yeah, they're really just not worth going after, honestly. What are my thoughts on the shark influencers? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Ocean Ramsey, who treat potentially deadly sharks. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. Treat potentially deadly sharks like they're harmless and encourage their untrained viewers to do the same. Dishonest. There is this, you see it a lot in the conservation world when you have a background or a profession in conservation education specifically, because conservation is, you know, depending on how much field work you're doing versus lab work versus animal care, you may not interact with that many people, but when you're in the conservation education field, you are both working alongside animals and people constantly. So you hear all kinds of ideas that people have on animals. And there is this really bizarre, I'm going to link it to anthropomorphism. I think it's a way for people to anthropomorphize animals by pretending they have a connection with them. And to facilitate that connection, they need to believe that the animal has their best intentions at heart. Not that they have the animal's best intentions at heart, but they need to believe the animal has their best intentions at heart in order to facilitate this anthropomorphism. So what you end up with is people treating exceptionally dangerous animals. Because when you say an animal is potentially dangerous, it may potentially harm you, but it is always exceptionally potentially dangerous, you know? It's like a stick of dynamite. Like, technically it's potentially dangerous. You know, and yeah, you have to light the fuse. It's not gonna, like, come out of the bushes and get you. Like, a stick of dynamite doesn't attack you unprovoked like most animals. You have to do something to initiate it. But when you do, like, it does not have your best interest at heart. It does not care about you. It's going to do what it's going to do. Um, so people like what he's talking about, or like you will see this on TikTok and Instagram all the time. Think of the videos you've seen of these divers under the water, next to it's usually tiger sharks, um, and they are like putting their hands up on the mouth and the nose of the tiger shark, and they're showing how to like invert them to induce tonic immobility. Or these sharks are swimming around them in like a diving scenario, and they're like, oh, you know, if the shark approaches you, you just gently push it away. um, I mean, what it is it's utilizing conservation for clout is what it is basically. Um, Not even basically, it's exactly what it is. It's utilizing conservation for clout. It is trying to create like the beauty aesthetic of like travel TikToks and stuff like that, with animals, and they are trying to use anthropomorphism as a way to gain followers. It's this weird little thing that'll happen where if you facilitate anthropomorphism, people have this. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know, anthropomorphism is assigning human traits and characteristics to animals that do not inherently share them. So like if I said like, oh, the alligator is, you know, it looks like he's got tears in his eyes, the poor thing. It's like one guy has tears in his eyes because like a lot of reptiles will use like tear ducts to clear their eyes out. It's like the equivalent of me doing this, you know, just on the regular. Things like that. It's like, oh, it looks so sad, or like it has this look of longing. It's like, oh, the elephant, you know, rose its trunk out towards me. He's waving. He wants me to know that he's my friend. It's like, no, he's probably smelling you actually. You know, he's probably smelling you because he doesn't like you and he assesses you as a threat. That's typically what, and when you see elephants reach their trunk straight out at people, that's what they're doing. They're not comfortable with you, is why they're doing that. Anthropomorphism is assigning human traits and characteristics to an animal that does not exist, and they are almost always done specifically for the purpose of convincing yourself that the animal has your best interest at heart. One of my favorite movies I've ever seen, which just recently came out, and really, really, really connected with this movie on so many levels. But it's a twist. It's a twist. The how it ties into what I'm saying is a twist if you haven't seen the movie. But basically, you need to. I'll just say it's one of Jordan Peele's movies. Really deals with the theme I'm talking about right here, amongst many other things. There's a lot of things that movie deals with, even heavier than what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is a part of it. The concept of anthropomorphism and like emotional connection to an animal that does not have any emotional connection to you. So yeah, long story short, I do not like those kind of TikTok or Instagram accounts. They're not interested in conservation. They're interested in using animals or the idea of conservation for clout. They don't actually do any work to support conservation industries or communities. Generally speaking, they will say that like, oh, we're educating the public about why these animals important. It's like, no, you're actually not. People are not learning anything from you about why these animals are important. You're giving the regular spiel of sharks aren't monsters. Yeah, we know. Everyone literally knows and has always known this. Like, everybody knows that they're just animals. We are still scared to be in the water with them. Like, it's not a bad thing to not want to swim with a shark. Like, people will say like, oh, you don't want to swim with a shark because you hate them and you want them extinct. It's like, no, because it could bite my leg off. Like, even if the odds of that happening are close to zero, you are entering the habitat of an animal that could, if it so chose, or got confused for even a split second, it could kill you. Is that the animal's intention all the time? No, of course not. Does the animal have it out for you? No, of course not. The animal doesn't care about you at all. Does the animal routinely hunt people? No, of course not. We're not good for sharks to eat. Not enough fat. Too much skin and bone. Not enough oil. However, they can still kill you. It's like running through the savannah. Like, when you get tackled by a lion, it may be exceptionally rare, but they can still do it if they want to. And it doesn't make it any more comforting to go running through the savannah thinking about how they don't really feed on people that often. You know, it's it gets to the point where the fantasizing of connection and well intentions of the animal is disrespectful to the animal. You are disrespecting the animal. You are disrespecting nature to assume that it cares about you enough to treat you differently in any respect than any other animal that might encounter. So yeah, they're not doing conservation work. They're not doing conservation education of any type. They're just using common known tropes as like a smoke screen of using conservation for clout. That's all it is. And if you want any example of how all that bullshit of like turn the shark upside down when it comes at you does not work, watch that video that went viral a few weeks ago or a few months ago of that kayaker in Hawaii, of that tiger shark that bites the side of his kayak at like 1,000,000,000 miles an hour. If they want you gone, you're gone. Like people who are like, oh, you do this, like no, like he's not trying to bite you. He's not trying to. If it was trying to, it would do it. It would do it. It's one of those things where it's like the proper defense is to not put yourself in the situation in the first place. And I don't mean don't go diving. I mean like don't interact with an animal in such a way as to provoke it in the first place. Because generally speaking, once you've provoked it, it's game over. Unless you're extraordinarily lucky. There is no secret self-defense move to defend yourself against an animal that weighs 1,000 pounds and wants to hurt you. Basically, just don't put yourself in the situation where it wants to hurt you in the first place. Nature does not care about the existence of humans, guys. It does not. We are not special. This is not for us. It just is. And when you are so convinced of your self-importance that you forget that, it's going to get the better of you. That's how it always happens. Alright, I noticed your last sturgeon video, you were using a palomino trout head as bait. Did you catch them yourself? Not that one. Spencer, who I was fishing with from Terra Firma Tackle, caught them. I did do some trout fishing. I'm not sure if I still have that footage. I might have lost the footage. I did a little bit of trout fishing when I was with them, but no, I did not catch the golden trout myself, unfortunately, because it would have been really cool. Hey, Psychic Toad's finally here. Plecos are awesome. Never caught one before, though. You know, they're kind of like frogs in a way, where if you spotlight them at night, you can actually grab them fairly easily, if they're near the edge of the bank, that is. Don't fall in. I'm regretting the live stream a little bit because I'm like talking more than I'm eating my sandwich. All I can imagine is a thumbnail showing a Pleco with the Houston skyline behind you saying catching prehistoric fish in the city. I'll tell you why I wouldn't do that. Number one, the words catching fish immediately filter out pretty much anyone who's not interested in catching fish. Whereas if you said something like, I think I've used these titles before, like there's a monster living in city water, like this is why you throw big baits in city water, doesn't necessarily imply fishing so much as it implies something giant is living in city water. So even people who are not interested in fishing want to know what's living in it. So the words catching fish almost always cut your audience down to only people who care about catching fish in the first place. And then you've shown what it is. So if I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see the thumbnail, and I like fishing, like I'm an animal guy, I'm a fishing guy, but even to me, if I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see a thumbnail and it has just a fish that isn't exceptional in some way, if it's not gigantic or something incredibly scary looking, you know, any of the normal attention grabbers, you've given the game up. I'm going to look at that, I'm going to be like, okay, catches Pleco in this, I'm going to scroll past it. So don't limit your audience by the choice of words, and don't give the game up within the thumbnail. Imply something significant, but don't say. Imply, don't say. It's like the old what is it? The movie, and or it's just storytelling in general. Show, don't tell, is kind of like a golden rule for storytelling. With YouTube, imply, don't show. Let's see. I think it's easy for trained professionals that are always surrounded by other professionals to forget that the rest of us aren't trained to be around these creatures. Yes, it most certainly is. Also, by the way, the word trained professional is a very loose term. A very loose term. I know trained professionals. I've worked with trained professionals. A lot of the people that you will see using like Instagram or TikTok or even YouTube to further themselves with wildlife, and I'm not talking about myself, but I'm in this line of work, so I have a tightrope I gotta walk with what I do. They're not professionally trained. They are not. believe they are, but they're just not. Professional training is so much more in depth and involved and time consuming and takes so much more of an investment than a lot of people are willing to do. So a lot of people will just try to get into something and somebody else will kind of walk them through the steps until they can do it. It's not real training. It's not real training. You know, you wouldn't perform open heart surgery like that. Why would you try to, you know, show me how to handle a tiger shark if that's how you learned it? Like, same thing's going to happen in the end, both ways. Someone's going to die. So yeah, a lot of the influencers you see with animals, they are not professionally trained in the slightest. Do you catch many flathead anymore? If not, now is a good time to try and catch them. Yeah, I mean, I might try to go get some. Again, going back to the question before, it's more a question of the fact that I don't like carrying around bait, live bait, that is. I don't like carrying around buckets full of live bait and stuff like that. What's a hi? What's up? Go fishing. I was fishing yesterday. I know you said you don't enjoy catching catfish like crazy, but how many small ones you get before a big one? Oh, but would love to see another video of using crawfish as bait. You know, sadly, those never do well, which is a shame because some people make them do really well. I just can't. Not sure how successful of a video it'd be, but could you make a vid on your tackle now? I remember your old one. Yeah, it's obviously changed quite a bit. That video would not do any numbers at all. I'd probably get like 2,000 views on it. Nobody would want to watch that. I have done one recently, actually, and it's on my Patreon. So if you guys want to see like in-depth review of every single piece of tackle I own or did, you know, a couple of months ago at the time of the video, that kind of stuff I put on Patreon because literally nobody will actually watch it. And that will tank your overall channel performance if you start putting out videos that you know are not going to do well. The algorithm is like, oh, you know, people don't like watching his stuff. Let's not suggest it that much. So intentionally putting out videos I know are going to bomb, not a good business move. So I probably won't do anything like that for the main channel, but I do put it on Patreon if you're interested. If you can catch a nice shad or mullet, you can use them cut or while dead for flathead and they'll eat them as long as they're not rotten. Yes, but if my understanding, and again, I don't know a whole lot about flathead fishing, so you can correct me if I'm wrong about it. My understanding is that it helps when there's current to move it. So flapper rigs seem to be what you're describing. Basically, they need current to make them move around to appear as if they're alive. I'm also getting into this weird point where I need to... A lot of the fish I've been catching recently are fairly large. And yeah, like, you know, I've made some bass videos and carp videos. I'm not talking about those. I'm saying that, like, it's an interesting position to put yourself in where you kind of constantly up the ante on yourself. Where it's like, I mean, you start catching gar up to 100 pounds. Nobody wants to watch you catch 50-pound gar anymore. You start catching gar up to 200 pounds. Nobody wants to watch you catch 100-pound gar anymore. And you end up in this cycle where it's like you always have to catch the bigger fish, and on the one hand it pushes you to make more interesting content. It kind of forces you to not be lazy, and I like that part about it. I like the fact that it keeps me trying to be the best version of myself. I can't coast in this job ever, but it's also makes things really hard. So yeah, I was hoping the videos with the sturgeon would do well. The ones that I've already put up, they did not. Which, honestly, I think that's probably just thumbnail choice being wrong. Thumbnail and title choice. If I go back and change them, there's always a chance to do better in the algorithm moving forward. Because that'll happen. People seem to think that when you do a YouTube video, it's like what happens that day that matters. You can go back to a YouTube video from months ago and change some things about the thumbnail and the title, and then just kind of do a little bit to get it out there again, and the algorithm will pick it up. Some of the bigger videos I've had were very, very small for like a year for like a year nobody watched it, and then like I'll change one thing about it and it will explode. So I need to change a couple of things with some of the videos that are already up to kind of get the attention on them that they deserve, despite the fact that they were really big, powerful fish. Sturgeon, if you guys, actually the picture on this live stream of me and the carp that was on that trip, that's like a 20-minute video on 20-minute video I put on my Patreon as well, is the giant, drawing a blank here, what do you call them? Mirror carp. Let's see. Looking to upgrade your setups for big fish. The Denali bottom feeder is amazing, but what exact model do I use? Depends on what I'm doing. So I have the Denali bottom feeder heavy action and medium heavy. The medium heavies are more versatile. The heavy actions are broomsticks, man. They are thick. If you are catching a fish that is 200 pounds or more, heavy action are the way to go. But anything lighter than that, they're overkill. And that's honestly, that's a good thing. When you have a good rod where it's like the medium heavy and the heavy combined kind of give you the full range on a species, that's what you want. There's an old hunter, I think I've mentioned this before on the show, who said if he was going to hunt the world with a single gun, he'd choose the calibers he named were the 375 and the 270. And the idea was 375 can take everything here and bigger, and the 270 can take everything there and smaller. And I kind of like to approach fishing with gear the same way. As far as like the big river fish go, and even some saltwater fishing I've been doing, the Denali bottom feeders I kind of divide into that category. Anything up into the 150-ish, 200 pounds and up, heavy action. Anything there and down, medium heavy. I would start with the medium heavy. It's just a little more versatile. I tend to use it a little more often, even though the biggest fish I've ever caught were on the heavy action. But I've caught more fish on the medium heavy. It's more supple. It's a little more sensitive. It's more fun. It's more fun to fish with the medium heavy. And I think, I don't know if you know this, like people might have missed it, because I think I only did it in like a community post. I'm working with Denali now, so like if you want to buy a Denali, like use the code that I offer. It's like a 20% discount that they do. It's really significant. So and they're not expensive rods to begin with, which they could be, because they catch fish that expensive rods are designed to catch. So it's all capitals, WL2022. WL2022 is the code to save that 20% if you end up getting one of those. I would say go medium heavy. Also, should I get the Daiwa BG or the Penn Fierce 4? Which model do you prefer? Is your preferred reel? I prefer the Daiwa BGs, and I'm glad you brought this up. The Denali bottom feeder spinning rods, the reel seats on them are like a millimeter smaller than they used to be. So the Penn Fierce models don't really fit them that well anymore. It's hard to get them seated. I would go with the BG. The BGs used to be too small a little bit. Now they fit perfectly. And a lot of people don't like that because they don't like being forced into a BG instead of a Penn Fierce, because the Penn Fierce comes in a live liner model, and a lot of people like that, and the BG doesn't. But I would forego the live liner on a Penn Fierce in favor of a BG. Number one, BGs are better reels. Number two, the live liners on Penns always seem to break. I don't know what it is, but every single one I've ever had has broken within months. Going back to the flathead bait discussion, they definitely like looking alive. Float setups and in current seem to be the best for the dead baits, or just suspended off the bottom in a few feet in still water. Seems like on bottom they don't eat. Okay, I get what you're saying. So like even if you're casting like a bottom rig, have that like float on the leader to elevate the bait. That makes sense. Love your fishing videos. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello? Hello? You have a soccer ball. Is that part of your username? That's cool. Just use your code on 2 Denali rods. Good. Good. The more people use that code, the longer they'll want to be partnered with me. I want to get some Denali rods now too. I mean, go for it. Again, I haven't released this video because it's part of a bigger project, but I caught some really impressive saltwater fish on the Denali. So they're more than just a gar and catfish rod. I know they're marketed as that, but they can handle sharks too. So, what size BG do you go with on the medium heavy Denali rods? Yeah, they're 7'6" long. I typically on the medium heavy I go with a 5,000. 6,500 will fit. I tend to go after really big fish with that one. The difference between a 5,000 and a 6,500 BG is pretty significant. I caught that 7'8". Was it 7'8"? It was like 7'6", I think. We didn't get an exact measure. We just compared it to my fishing rod. It was about the same length as a 7'6" fishing rod. So I caught that 7.5-foot sturgeon on the Denali bottom feeder medium heavy and a BG 5000. And if it can handle a 150-pound sturgeon, it will handle anything in Texas, because those fish fight way harder than alligator gar do. If using circle hooks and cut bait for catfish with a spinning reel, how much drag should be set? I'm having issues and it's always circle hooks. Well, when you say you're having issues, like, are they spitting the bait? Is the hook not setting properly? Like you're not getting it to penetrate? What I would do, because here's the thing, I don't go by pounds when I set my reels. I do it by feel, so it's hard for me to explain to you like the way it should be. I have never measured the drag on any of my reels. I set it to a certain way, I pull some of the line, and I know what I want to feel. It's almost like when you feel water for temperature and you know what you're looking for, even if there's not a thermometer in it, you're like, yeah, that's ready. That's what I do with my drag. So what I would do is, if you're having trouble with penetration on circle hooks, make sure they're sharp. And I know that sounds like a dumb basic thing to say, but like, inspect them, look at the tips, make sure the tips are not bent, take a file to it, make sure they are sharper than when they came in the package. That's usually why people drop fish, is because the hooks are not sharp. Let's see. Oh my god, like 5 comments came through all at once. I missed them. Sorry for picking your brain with that question. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on these various environmental topics. Oh, hang on, there's a question, there's something in between yours, I'll get to it. That said, ... to be continued. And this next one says, had a Penfierce 3 for 2 weeks before I gave it away. Could not get used to that weird shaped handle paddle. Replaced with a piece of Carbon X. Do I have one of those? I do, it's just not in the car. Don't like T-handles are similar on any light tackle. Yeah, it's all about preference. That's the thing, there's no right or wrong. When it comes to, well, I mean, you want to make sure your tackle can handle the fish. I don't mean to say like, oh, you can catch anything with anything. Like, no, you can't. You'll get smoked instantly if you catch the wrong thing. But you get what I'm saying. Like, as long as your gear can handle the fish, at that point, it's entirely about personal preference, and it can be anything. The way the handle feels, the weight of the reel, just whether or not you're personally comfortable with the amount of line it holds, castability, the drag, the sound of the drag. Like, once your reel can handle the fish properly and safely, you can nitpick any detail you want. There's no right or wrong. It's all about preference. All right, to be continued, ... What do you believe is the most pressing environmental problem facing the world today? Climate change. 100%. Not even a question. That is absolutely the biggest deal. I'm going to predict we're going to see a shift in the next 10 years to climate denial, to a blame game. So right now we are still heavily in climate denial, climate change denial. Everyone is like, oh no, it's not real. And then 10 years from now, when it is absolutely proven to be irreversible, it has been proven. It has been proven. It's a fact. Climate change is a fact, guys. Man-made, man-caused, environmentally distressing climate change is a fact of science. It has always been proved, but people refuse to accept it because it demands a change in lifestyle, specifically for a lot of us, but primarily, first and foremost, from the people who have the most to lose by making those changes, big corporations, things like that. The ones who are doing the most damage to the environment. There's a bit of a blame game has always existed in, like, the turn your lights off when you leave the house, make sure you don't run the water too long, drive electric instead of driving a gas-powered car. Meanwhile, like, massive corporations will like dump 1 billion pounds of plastic in the ocean while reminding you not to leave the lights on too long. So there's already a bit of a blame game, like blame shifting already in practice for climate change or just environmentalism in general, and always has been. But what you're going to see, and I think this is already starting to happen. I saw one newspaper do it, and I knew it was going to happen. It's going to happen a lot more over the next 10 years. Right now, we have all these corporations and politicians. And by the way, if you're one of the people who are listening to this right now and you're like, oh, don't get political, bro. Conservation is inherently political. It is inherently political. There is no two ways about it. It absolutely is. And I'm a conservationist first and foremost. The fishing supports the conservation message. So yeah, conservation is inherently political. No two ways about it. So politicians and, business lobbyists and big business are in denial mode at the moment, when the problems that many nations are already facing with climate change end up severely affecting first world countries like the United States. Because that's the problem, is it tends to affect certain third world countries or regions of the world first, and it will affect the first world countries last, because we have the resources to basically, plug a hole in the life raft until it becomes too much. When it comes to affect us in a way that can no longer be denied, it will be a monumental game of shifting the blame. And it will be to the researchers and scientists who have been talking about it all along, to like, well, y'all didn't do a good enough job warning us. What we could have done so much if y'all had only told us this was a problem better than you did. That is what's going to happen over the next 10 years. Get ready for it. It reminds me of... The Last King of Scotland. I was trying to remember the name of that movie the other day. The Last King of Scotland. Remember, it's James McAvoy is like the impromptu appointed physician for is it Idi Amin? Is the dictator that Forrest Whitaker is playing? I think it's Idi Amin. A true story, by the way. And there's a scene where Forrest Whitaker is making some like big decision that James McAvoy knows is gonna blow up in everyone's face. He's like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And he's like, don't tell me what to do or I'll have you killed. And then he does it and it backfires, and he blames James McAvoy for not convincing him hard enough. And I think that's the moment in the movie where James McAvoy is like, shit, like I have got to get out of here. But yeah, that's what's gonna happen. That's what's going to happen. We're in denial mode now. About 10 years from now, or before that, within the next 10 years, the climate change will no longer be denied by anyone, but the blame for it will be shifted on the people who are warning us now for not having warned us hard enough. So yeah, climate change is absolutely the biggest environmental problem in the entire world, because it is the only environmental problem that simultaneously will affect the entire world. There's no other issue that you can point to that will have the same gravity of consequence for the entire planet like climate change. Also, a lot of other ones are, with enough time and resources, to an extent, reversible in quite a few ways. The problem with climate change is that it's like sinking in quicksand, and denying that you're sinking in quicksand. At a certain point, you're not going to be able to get out of it. It won't be reversible. That's what a lot of people don't understand about stuff like this. They're like, oh, there's always a science scare in the news. And do you remember when the ozone was in trouble? What happened to that? Nothing. It's like, no, actually, every major country in the world banned the sale and production of the chemicals that were causing issues with the ozone. Like, there was global cooperation to shut down the problem. And over the next couple of decades, the ozone recovered, because those chemicals were no longer commercially available, which they were all over the world before those treaties were signed. A lot of people will be aware that there's a problem, plug their ears when people talk about the solution, and then when things are fixed because of the work being done by the people solving the problem, they will just say in unison, see, nothing happened. By the way, it's the same way working in the safety industry. You jump through hoops to make sure everyone's safe from the thing you told them not to do, and when you save their ass, they're like, see, nothing happened. Let's see. Sold you on a 6'8" Mojo bass rod by St. Croix about 2 years ago. Yeah. Oh, man. You know what happened to that rod? I lost it over the edge of a kayak. Sad day. They're redesigning the series. Oh, they had a really pretty series of rods back in the day. I'd like to see what the new ones look like. The original designs are reduced in price. Had to pick up another one. Oh, well, there you go. That's good. If you can get them for cheaper. Just fished on Bray's Bayou. Had a great time. Well, that's good. Did you catch anything? Let's see. Why so beautiful? Question mark. God owed me a favor. You're talking about somebody else, obviously, but I couldn't resist. As a Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference, I had to get out there while I had the chance. Who is it? What's that actor's name? You know, the one who does the Mayhem commercials? He played Liz Lemon's boyfriend on 30 Rock. Oh, he's in Law & Order. The guy who talks like this. You know, protect yourself from mayhem like me. He plays the Vulture on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're trying to stop him from taking a case away, so they're trying to slow him down as he goes up the stairs. And I think it's, what's her name? I can't remember her name. Rosa. Rosa's like stops in the stairway. She's like, why are you so handsome? He's like, God owed me a favor. And just like walks around her. Good day, bro. How's it going? Good. I'm exhausted, but the day is going good, and I have a muffaletta sandwich, which I'm slowly working on. Probably shouldn't wait too long. I don't want this thing to go off. I just took a bite about the size of my head. Any progress on getting the verified check on YouTube? Every time I think about doing that, I forget about it. Sturgeon was great. That's good. A lot of work went into that, and not only my work, but on Spencer's part too, from Terra Firma Tackle. If you guys like those videos, check out Terra Firma Tackle. Support this stuff. Spencer went so far out of his way to be accommodating for me on that trip. What normally would have cost me many thousands of hours and help from guides and stuff to get those fish, you know, he helped me with. It's so nice of him to do that, and his tackle really is top end. You can't catch fish like that unless your tackle works. His tackle works. So terrafirmatackle.com, check it out. Let's see. You saw mirror carp in the thumbnail. Yeah, so I was in Idaho. And they're here too. You can find them in Texas. They're more common in the Midwest and northern states. And I was in Idaho fishing for sturgeon, and we stopped at a lake for what do you call it? Mirror carp. They really are beautiful. They're so much prettier than common carp. And common carp are beautiful, but mirror are just something else. How long does it take for the Denali rods to show up? Not that long. I mean, it just depends on where you live, I guess. In the past, when I order them, I get them in about a week and a half-ish. Maybe at the most 2 weeks, but it's not very long at all. See if I missed anything while I was ranting about climate change. No apologies for that, by the way, guys. If you're a conservationist, you got to talk about conservation. What the hell was that? The whole parking lot just shook. My God, I don't know what that was. That was weird. Nobody else is acting like anything's wrong, so. I mean, the whole. Did you see it on the camera? Like, the whole car shook up and down. Jeez. I don't know what that was. If a sinkhole opens up and this live stream takes a turn, you know, at least we'll go viral, yeah? Would live bait work on catfish? Yes. Live bait is exceptional. An exceptional proven strategy for catfish. There's just like this one comment on here that says stir in flour. What are we talking about? June bug worms are crushing the bass right now, just like every year. I want to do some bass fishing. I should look into that. How did the delivering service react when you said they destroyed your rods that one time? Oh, they didn't react. I'm a nobody. It's not like Brad Pitt's talking about FedEx wrecking his stuff. Like, they didn't do anything. Who am I? It was, I think it was FedEx. Yeah, what does FedEx care about me for? Like, they don't even know I exist. Do I still work with PC Fun? No, I work with Denali. And Salt Strong, occasionally. Peyton gets stuck into a parking lot sinkhole on live. If I can... Actually, I was going to say, if as long as I crawl out of here, I'll be fine and go viral. But I actually have a ton of expensive gear in here. So, yeah, that actually probably ended up costing me more money than I could afford. Would crab work for catfish? Yeah, catfish will eat almost anything. As long as it's a good bait, it's got a strong scent to it, it's meaty enough that they're going to find it worthwhile to eat. They're going to be able to track it down, or you present it in a way that it becomes available to the catfish. Yeah, they'll probably eat crab. True, mirrors are lovely. Just got back from Coates. Is that how you pronounce it? Coates Water in Swindon, UK. What was that? Coates has some good carp, but very difficult. I was in Idaho. I don't know the name of the lake. Blackfoot Reservoir, maybe? I think is what it was. FedEx and UPS will turn on any one piece into a four... They'll turn any piece into a 4-piece guaranteed. Yeah, the rod tube it was flat, like flat as flat can be. It was supposed to be round, it was flat. And it had a tire track going down the entire length of the package, lengthwise. And they didn't drive across it, like if my arm is the rod tube, they didn't drive across it. They drove straight down the rod. It was crushed flat. My phone is overheating. You guys might disappear. I apologize if this is the last time I see you. I'm trying to calm cool this down. I'm sorry about the audio. I know you can hear the air conditioning now, but it's better than the live stream just suddenly cutting off without explanation. Honestly, I probably should get back on the road in a second. I still got about 4 hours to drive. Somebody used my rod tube as a loading ramp. Yeah, certainly seemed like it. The good thing is that was not a sponsorship rod. Denali sent me a bunch of stuff when I was working with them. That was not one of those rods they sent me. That was a different piece of gear that I bought on my own. And it was not in any way connected to the work I was doing for that company. So it was annoying, but it wasn't that inconvenient. It wasn't like, oh, I need this for work, and now I have, I don't have the gear that I have to show off. It wasn't like that. Can you do a little bit of bass fishing in a video? Yeah, I've been doing bass fishing fairly frequently recently, and I enjoy it. The thing is, I usually go bass fishing when I am trying to give myself a break. I find bass fishing, especially in urban environments, to be exceptionally easy. I know it's not easy when you start doing it on big lakes for like giant bass. It's you got to know a lot to get the good ones. But I'm saying, like, when you fish for like these urban canals, like bass that I do, it's quite easy. So usually when I've had a long, hard couple of trips that have just taken everything out of me, I'll go to a bass video after. So yes, I was actually trying to catch bass the other day. I just didn't catch anything. Bass with me, you know what? You tell me when. I was actually thinking about going out towards Kingwood the other day. Ever thought of fishing abroad? If so, Where and which fish would you target? Yeah, I've thought about it. I'd probably want to do Wells catfish first, just because I think doing it's one of the great fish of the world to catch. It can't much in the same way as alligator gar. They are catching bigger ones all the time. Like a new record seems to get set every year. Um, and I think it would be a first a first time out of the country on a big trip like that. I think it would be easier to go to Europe as opposed to some of the other countries I want to go to for a first time traveler. So probably Wells catfish for the first one. Do bigger fish videos or just crazy bait videos do better in the long run? Yes. They do better in the short term and the long term. I mean, if you go look at like just you can do this on anyone's YouTube channel. You can organize their videos based upon popularity. So basically, you get a descending view count from top video to bottom video. And if you do that to my videos, you notice a pattern emerges immediately. They are big fish cast net videos, which again, it peaks that. Remember I talked about implying something's going to happen instead of showing something's going to happen. That's why cast net videos are so successful. So you get these big fish videos, these weird bait videos, cast net videos, and weird location videos like fishing the abandoned water park, things like that. Those are all the videos that have done the best for me. Let's see. I'm always ready to fish, bro. Anytime you are. My boss is a fan of your show. He would give me the time off for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's work. It's work for me. So I can schedule pretty much anything. I don't think I'm free on most. That's the thing. Weekends I try to spend with my family, but it is a possibility I can make an exception in a week or two. It just depends. So yeah, I pretty much have most days available for that kind of thing. Invite your boss too. I'll tell him to give you a raise. No. Do you fish in salt water? If you do, can you do shark fishing? Yes, yes, and yes. So that is, I'll show you the rods that I have with me today. Big things. Big fish I just caught yesterday. So yes, big animals coming to the show. All right. I am very, very tired. I have a long way to drive. I also have more than half of the sandwich left, and I do want to eat it. And I don't want to do this drive, y'all. I don't. Here's a question. I'll leave y'all with this question. You can tell me in the comments of this video what you think, because I don't know where I stand on it. If they invented teleportation, it's a new technology. Teleportation has been developed. Maybe like, I don't know who would be behind that or something. But teleportation gets developed, and they are opening up teleportation opportunities or options for travel. So just like, there was the first commercial airplane, there was the first commercial train. Well, now they're doing the first commercial teleportations. And, they're going to go back and forth to certain areas, pre-designated areas, because that's how it would get developed. You'd have to have all this equipment to make it happen. So let's say you have the opportunity to travel via teleportation. You do not know or understand the physics behind it. That bit is a little bit fuzzy. You just know that it works. You enter the teleportation station in one zone, and you become teleported to another. Would you do it? Would you do it? Because there's a lot of questions around teleportation in general in regards to, even like the spinning of the earth, putting you in a slightly different location that might screw up the reassembly of your atoms, things like that. The idea of whether or not it's the same person or a person that has been effectively killed and resurrected, or a person that has been essentially incinerated and then a separate person that has been reassembled with the same atoms, because when you die, your atoms don't cease to exist. They get reassembled into other things. Is that also what teleportation would do in theory? All these questions about teleportation. I was thinking about this the other day. I love Star Trek, and I was watching somebody on TikTok talk about the potential science behind teleportation I think they were talking about the movie The Fly, which is also a really good movie. David Cronenberg's The Fly. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if teleportation was offered commercially, but you didn't know much about the process. Would you do it? Yes or no? Why or why not? All right, I'll leave you guys with that. I have a lot of sandwich to eat and a long way to drive. Hopefully, I should have a good video up by next week or midweek. We'll just see how I'm feeling. Thank you guys for checking in, and I will check y'all later.